the devolution or devolution of bodybuilding. What exactly am I talking about here? Okay, things have changed. And if it weren't for certain pioneers along the way, we really wouldn't have progress. And what do I mean by this? Wow, look at bodybuilding. Going all the way back to the 1970s, we had what was called a revolution of sorts, where an inventor, a businessman, Arthur Jones, created Nautilus machines. He believed there was something better than a barbell out there, and did make a change, did create, put his money where his mouth was, and actually created the Nautilus machines. And this kind of changed the landscape in bodybuilding and brought many people to a different level because of the development of their musculature from his equipment. And you've heard me talk about Mike Mentzer and even, six-time Mr. Olympia Dorian Yates, all benefited from such type of creations, okay? And much like the way of the moon landing, okay, in the United States at least, well, actually, I can't remember the last time I saw an astronaut, walking on the moon. I don't know if this is something the whole world has just decided nobody really wants to see anymore or do anymore, or maybe we explored all of the best that we could and that's it, it's over. There's no reason to do it. But much like since the 70s or 80s, we haven't seen an astronaut on the moon, in bodybuilding, and I call that devolution in science without explanation. Bodybuilding, on the other hand, has changed in the way that we've gone through several waves or periods wherein there were some creations that were really good, and one of them I just named, Nautilus equipment, and it seemed to open up a whole new universe of equipment and how it can affect physique gains. And unfortunately, that devolved because there has not been improvements with the equipment that have been created since then. Not only that, but Nautilus has gone the way of the dinosaur. It's gone, okay? Original Generation 1 Nautilus with the cams, okay, we can all agree were just massive pieces of equipment, but they're gone. The idea behind it, gone, okay? Variable resistance, there it is, variable resistance. And so in recent times, as we've gone now 50 years later from when those pieces of equipment were around, there's been several iterations of new pieces of equipment, and I've gone to the Health and Fitness Association convention that's held on the West Coast of the United States several times in the last few years, and I've seen all the newest creations. There's nothing new under the sun as far as equipment goes. Very few true industry-changing innovations, very few. There are some, but very few. Having said all of that, the devolution in bodybuilding, it's in bodybuilding training that I'm speaking in the context of. How do we go about making changes and seeking out the best way to train? Well, I've credited quite often a mentor of mine, Mike Mentzer, with bodybuilding changes after Arthur Jones, and how Mike's logical thinking without studies, there were no meta-analyses being done back then that Mike could rely on for what was the best type of training. And so he logicalized his way through creating new routines, training routines, diet, etc. I should say diet, he just fell back on the USDA. He didn't really logicalize that. He just leaned on whatever the government said, which to me, and a lot of you are going to say, was just plain stupid. Yeah, I just said that. Depending on what the government says. Anyway, he is credited with changing the industry with a lot of logic and training changes. Since that time, with increasing and taking thought and giving respect to recovery from your workouts and letting your body grow and change. And throughout the 90s, certainly a lot of bodybuilders switched from training body parts 2 or 3 times a week to doing it just once a week. And they grew. They followed in the footsteps of Mike Mentzer and Dorian Yates. and they grew. From that time, going into the 2000s, 2010s, and now we're in the 2020s, when it comes to training, the big change that I have seen is a big backward step, stepping away from using free weights. You don't see a whole bunch of top physiques using free weight barbell exercises. Recently, I saw a video of Mr. Olympia Samson Dauda squatting, and I thought, man, hey, here we go, right? I'm one of those guys. I've been around for 50 years, 40 years training. So when I see somebody using a barbell and going at it, yeah, sure. A lot of barbell exercises have gone the way of the dinosaur, but here he is going for it with a barbell. I thought, great, this is great. But yet, he's the only one recently that I've seen, doing free weight exercises. I'm talking about natural bodybuilding. I'm talking about enhanced bodybuilding, either one. I've seen videos online. I'm on social media. I see. And it's just not prevalent, let's say. There's a heavy reliance on a lot of equipment these days, and maybe that's out of safety. And we'll judge it in about 10 or 20 years. I can tell you right now, we'll judge it correctly by that time by all of the results, but I can tell you right now that there does seem to be a much lower set of torn muscles in bodybuilding. That's usually the enhanced side that we're talking about. In natural bodybuilding, it doesn't happen as often, but there does seem to be a benefit to moving away from those barbell exercises, dumbbell exercises that traditionally have torn bodybuilders have torn muscles on, squatting. I can think of, Jean-Pierre Fuchs. Gruesome. Bench press with the pec. And those are the main ones. Yeah. Bicep with the deadlift. These are the main ones. So having said all of that, I can say, and I'll mention this near the end here, that in 2025, is there any more discussion of improving on training? Well, yeah, there is in the scientific community. Ooh, I like that. In the scientific community, there are studies, there are meta-analyses, there are direct, just singular studies done on various forms of training, from lengthened partials to using single set versus multiple set. And these are breakthroughs. There are some, in fact, breakthroughs going on in training and studies of training in recent years. And some of it is quite valid and applicable to training, to our training in the gym. And most recently, I was introduced to Dr. John Jaquish, the creator of the X3 bar and band system. And the word variable resistance comes out of his mouth quite often. And this I like because he's a thinker, because he also takes studies, because he also will finance people who are in opposition to his thinking and see, in fact, go ahead, in your non-biased way, go ahead and see if you can prove or disprove a certain way of training. He's so confident in not only his product, but the principles behind it. There we go. And so this is a reintroduction of variable resistance that's gone on through his system. And while some of you may think that this is a strictly home gym type situation for those who don't want to go to a gym and don't want to use barbells and dumbbells, I disagree entirely. I think that some of the greatest changes and trends in bodybuilding that we've benefited from came from original thinkers, logical thinkers, that in this one case, I give Dr. John credit for using science. He's a PhD, but also using current studies to the benefit of those who will listen. And so applying his equipment, certainly in some exercises, and I've been experimenting with it myself in just this last few months, I'm very happy to mention it, that it has benefited me and some clients as well. So I'll be getting more into that later on. So there is later on as in near future videos. But for now, just know that even though there's been a devolution in bodybuilding training, there are still some thinkers out there, and some of those principles come on back. And they haven't gone the way of the astronaut and the moon, the lunar landings that we saw and chased after back in the 70s and 80s. So they haven't gone quite that way yet. So let's keep our eyes and ears open for now. And that's it for today. From my heart to you, John Hart. Listen, before you go, off to my left, you're going to see this disc pop up. That's the subscribe button for my channel. Please give that thing a tap. And down below and off to your left, you're going to see a thumbs up button. Please give that thing a tap and change its color and let the YouTube algorithm know how much you're enjoying my videos. And get me a little pumped up to see some more subscribers and thumbs ups on those videos. And throw a comment down there too in the video after you see the video description section down below. Go ahead and throw some comments into my videos. Let me know what you think, all right? That's it for today. I'll see you soon.